We have two very different indie Metroidvanias to look at for today's video. First up, the challenging running and gunning of Before I Go, and then we get some gun customization of Clockwork Ambrosia. In Before I Go, we play a creature on a strange world who is trying to bring peace back to it. And the story goes to some very interesting places I won't spoil here. But to solve this mystery, we're going to do a lot of Metroidvanian platforming, dying, and bumping into a lot of spikes along the way. This is a run and gun Metroidvania, as you'll be able to equip or get upgrades to your gun, as well as get access to special shots that are powered by your charge meter in the upper left. The game itself focuses heavily on platforming and getting past obstacles. Beyond the Metroidvania staples of wall jumping and propelling yourself around, the game's unique travel mechanic is phasing into these symbols, which will then launch you in different ways. Some will just launch you automatically, some you'll need to aim, and the obstacle courses of the world are built heavily around using these different powers. And this is where Before I Go gets its most challenging aspects. It reminds me a little bit of Celeste in some spots, but everything controls very nicely. And I really didn't have any problem with the general movement and combat in that respect. Some of the later and more challenging obstacles are just about you trusting the level design and doing everything in a single cycle, and it usually ends up working well. Now with that said, the main frustration point with the game is that it can be on the difficult side, and this is due to several considerations by the pacing. So, you have checkpoints that you die, you return to the previous one, we all know that. But those checkpoints, or permanent ones, are few and far between. And death can set you back a lot of minutes to get back to a previous spot. There are temporary checkpoints that you can purchase using the currency you get by exploring that will basically save you if you're about to go into a really tough section. You can also use that currency to acquire attack and health buffs that will last until you die. And death can come quite quickly. You do not really get any iframe upon taking damage, and only mid and large class enemies will drop health. So you can definitely get into that situation where you're just stuck and not really able to get your health back because you can't get to an enemy that will do it. And when you're in the obstacle course sections, there is no health regen whatsoever, so if you mess up too many times, you're going back to the previous checkpoint. The game features passive items that you can find as well to help make things a little bit easier, such as giving you quicker or more regen on your ammo and the healing power, or just more health, and that kind of thing. Now the other problem the game has is with the pacing in the first half of it. Like any Metroidvania, the world is built around you having a central hub, and then each one of the areas being an outcropping of it. And there are fast travel stations, but they are even rarer than the checkpoints. And the problem the game has is that they went for this structure where each biome has about usually 2 to 3 fast travel points, especially from the larger ones. Now, the central hub is the largest of the areas because it connects everything, and you go a very long time before you get fast travel that can get you past or get you to and fro. And this is one of those games that, like our next title, it's all about you trying to figure out where is the next part of the chain. And the only way to know, unless you have a really great memory, is to return to those areas. But there is so much backtracking. And the strangest part is that when you get to these smaller individualized biomes, they are very compact and better paced in terms of where their fast travel points are, and having far less downtime of having to do backtracking. And it really starts to add up considering how much you're traveling through that central area in the first half of the game. And it's this reason why the first half of the game feels worse than the back half. Once you have access to all your movement tag and your combat upgrades, you can really cut loose, and there are some very interesting and well-designed challenge sections in the final quarter of the game. But if you end up getting frustrated or quit before that, you're really not seeing a whole lot of what Before I Go has to offer. And I would just really add like maybe one more fast travel to the central hub to make it easier to get around, at least again until you start unlocking all the other areas. So if you're in the mood for a very challenging and stylized Metroidvania, I would give this one a play, and I hope we do see more of the style from the creator in the future. And now we go to Clockwork Ambrosia. On a vacation, our steampunk-powered ship gets struck down by, well, a giant metal dragon. And we land on an island that is besieged by robots and other creatures that have gone mad. In order to solve this crisis, we must use gears and gun in hand to get past it. So this is more on the combat-focused side as far as Metroidvanias go. You will again get access to your standard movement tech and those options. But a big aspect and the major selling point of Clockwork Ambrosia is with the weapon customization. You'll get access to several weapon types over the course of playing. Each weapon has kind of a modular system built into it. You'll be able to add mods to specific parts that will change how the weapon behaves. So you can take your normal charge pistol. You can add a mod that makes it auto charge. Whenever the gun shoots a charge shot, it doubles the charge shot. Whenever the charge shot depletes your ammo, it adds another shot. And then suddenly your single charge shot turns into a penta death ball that nukes anything it touches. And the weapons are also used for some of the puzzle solving, such as being able to hit switches or destroy something that's not in the normal path. And this is a quite interesting feature for the game, as you'll need to make use of the different weapons, and I'm sure everyone will have their own two preferred weapons they'll like to use. I of course went with the Mega Man Charge Pistol and the Rocket Launcher, which I upgrade into a multi-rocket launcher that also had multi-stages, which transformed the blast and did all kinds of other things as well. You'll also acquire gear that you can buy and upgrade that will do everything from add more to your health and armor to changing like kind of like the base properties of your character. Once I got the one that kind of decrease the amount of walk before your character kind of goes into their sprint, I was off to the races. And the enemies themselves will run the game, but you'll have some that are just there to kind of patrol an area, some that will actively harass and stalk you, and a variety of challenging bosses. The kind of unique element of fighting the enemies is that most of the larger enemies have armor, and armor will block basically damage based on the number of armor points they have. So if an enemy has 8 points of armor and you do 10 points of damage, only 2 of those points will get through. Charge hits and some of the heavier weapons will break armor off, and I believe one of the weapons has Pierce that just actively ignores armor. And you'll need to figure out how you want to best approach the enemies in the game. Bosses have a variety of patterns, and they hit quite hard. This is not like your basic like Metroidvania. Enemies can do lots of damage to you, and you have access to kind of health and armor as your two forms of actually your quote-unquote health bar. You'll be able to repair both and heal as you kill enemies, and you'll be able to upgrade them based on the gear that you acquire. While all this sounds great, as I alluded to in the first part of this video, Clockwork Ambrosia's main flaw, at least for me, is the amount of backtracking that is required, and that it's very easy to get lost in terms of where your next destination needs to be. The game once again goes for an open world style, where in order to kind of move the overall story along, you'll need to explore different areas. However, this is again one of those games where an upgrade you find in one corner could be the solution to something in the complete opposite end of the map. And unlike our previous game, you do not start with fast travel. You have an elevator that is supposed to be your quote-unquote fast travel, or we have fast travel at home. But you don't unlock actual teleporting fast travel until about the halfway to maybe 75% through. And by that point, you're going to go back and forth and back, up and down, and so on. As an interesting touch, Clockwork Ambrosia is the only Metroidvania I've played where the world actually screen wraps. So there is no definitive left and right side of the world. If you keep going to the left, you'll end up on the right hand side because you're on an island. While this is a very interesting touch, it also makes it a little bit harder to, again, figure out where you need to go. And we got to the point, I think it was past the 75% mark of the game, where I had no idea what I was missing. And I just ended up getting frustrated and I decided to put the game down. This is further compounded by the fact that the map just does not do a good job of giving you an idea of where there are items, where you need to go, was there something you missed, that kind of thing. Since we have played this, the developer has released several patches, including those to make it easier to find some of the items, reduce some of the frustration in the middle, and improve the lighting quality of the map to make it easier to read. And there may be more updates by the time this video goes out. And at some point I would like to come back and at least see the game all the way through. Another frustration is how combat works, and that despite all the customization, it still slows the game down to some extent. Instead of spawning or respawning enemies whenever the player hits a checkpoint or a save, the game spawns enemies based on what side of the screen the player will enter the next screen in. So there are certain rooms that if you go from left to right, it spawns an enemy. If you approach from right to left, they don't. And when you start running to the very large enemies, especially those that are heavily, and I do mean heavily armored, it can take upwards of a minute or so just to get through all that armor before you can actually hit them. And again, the first time you fight them, it's not so bad. But if you're just trying to figure out where you need to go and the super annoying enemy just keeps respawning every time, it gets very frustrating. And like I said earlier, because health and armor are at a premium, if you're not keeping up with that, you can easily just have your entire health and armor bar get melted by some of the larger enemies. So, Clockwork Ambrosia is a really great concept for a Metroidvania. Again, the weapon customization is definitely the key selling point of it. And while there is platforming, this is not as platforming or obstacle intensive as Before I Go or even something like a Hollow Knight or Silksong. If you're a fan of, again, gun-based Metroidvanias and you like the whole idea of creating your own ways of dealing with all the enemies, I would highly recommend you give this one a try. And I would keep an eye on the game to see what patches and updates will come to make things a little bit easier and smooth out some of those wrinkles that I mentioned. So with that, both games were played with press keys. Until your game for a future stream and review, be sure to get in touch. If you did play these ones, let me know what you thought of them as well. And with that, come back for more discussions on indie games and game design here on Game Wisdom. Thanks for watching, and a special thank you to our Patreon supporters. If you enjoyed the video, do the YouTubing stuff, be sure to visit our Discord and Patreon, and if you're interested in more in my thoughts on design, check out my game design books.